Anyways, it is what it is, right?
Welcome to the One Mental Breakdown Later podcast.
We're your hosts, Maria, Kate, and Mads.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the shit show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the One Mental Breakdown Later podcast. I'm your host, Maria.
I'm Mads.
So before we start, I do want to say that Caitlin, unfortunately, is not joining us in this episode. She has some stuff to do.
I also do want to say a trigger warning for this episode. We do get into topics like suicide, addiction, and drugs and alcoholism, and also different mental health treatments. So if any of them trigger you in any way, please be advised that this episode might not be for you.
Yeah, this is definitely a kind of heavy episode. We talked about a lot of different heavy subjects. So if you're not ready for those, we totally understand and we advise you to not listen to this episode. And if you need help with anything, we have some hotlines here that Madison can tell you.
So if you are struggling with addiction, there is a hotline that you can call and you can get free and confidential guidance. The number is 866-501-9732. And that is a United States hotline, 866-501-9732.
And today we have our first guest, Madison. Would you like to introduce her?
Yes, this is our first guest ever on the podcast. This is Danny. Danny's going to kind of walk us through some stuff today, kind of share her journey with mental health. So Danny, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Danny. I am an addict and an alcoholic due to misdiagnosed and undiagnosed mental health issues throughout my whole life. So, yeah.
What was one of the reasons why? Because I know we talked about it. For people that don't know, me and Danny work together. And we were talking about the podcast. What was one of the reasons why you wanted to kind of come on here and kind of share your story?
Well, because I've had a crazy journey. I'm 30 years old and was just recently diagnosed with ADHD, which if this was noticed and diagnosed a lot sooner, there's a possibility that I would not have turned to drugs. There's also, recently I was once again misdiagnosed with depression, and it caused me they gave me meds, and the meds made me have an entire mental breakdown and relapse after having 4.5 years clean and sober, because it made me suicidal. And I, like, as much as I felt like I wanted to kill myself, I have kids and I know that I can't. Plus, being on this road of recovery, like, I know the statistics of it, and I can't really remember the exact number, but I'd put my life to say that at least 90% of addicts and alcoholics that struggle with addiction also are, diagnosed or not even diagnosed, but they struggle with mental health issues. That's why a lot of, recovery institutes and rehabs are now dual diagnosis, because we all deal with these things.
That's crazy to me. That just kind of goes with kind of the reason why we started this podcast, is because people don't take mental health as serious as I think that it should be. And not only taken serious, but I think over the last, I would say, few years, mental health has become a trend more than a very serious situation. And to me, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you're heading down alcohol or drugs or suicide, or even just like not wanting to get out of bed. For me, I just think that it's crazy that sometimes doctors and family members and just a society as a whole don't take it as serious as it should be.
Well, I think too, a lot of it comes down to, because even me, like, people don't understand that if you're struggling with something that's mental, you have to see a specialist, which is either a psychiatrist or a psychologist. because you go to your family doctor, they may know the physics of the brain, but they don't understand what happens chemically in the brain. Okay. And when those chemicals get imbalanced, it causes problems. Okay. But like most people that are struggling with things go to their family doctor, and that is the wrong first step. Is the absolute wrong first step. And it's even more wrong for the doctor to take it into their own hands to try and diagnose something that they don't understand. And that is the biggest mistake that people and people in the medical field make when it comes to these things.
Yeah, it is so weird that you say that, because at least for me, it's always been like, go to a psychologist or go to a psychiatrist. I would have never thought to go to a family doctor. So you saying that people do that, it just comes to show that there's a lack of information and education, and
Absolutely.
people should be taught from a young age, anxiety is not like, I don't want to say not normal, but it's not healthy. You need a specialist. Like, dealing with this emotions is not healthy. You need to go to a specialist and not just suck it up and stop crying and be tough.
Right. Well, I also think too that it is a lot of misinformation, absolutely, but people deal with these problems on very different levels too. So like my anxiety is not going to be the same as your anxiety. I'm going to deal with it at either, a higher level or a lower level. So that's also where people get misinformed about these situations, because even though these problems are grouped into one diagnosis, whether it be depression, anxiety, ADHD, ADD, whatever it may be, everybody is different and it affects everybody differently.
Totally.
And that's very, very misinformed in society today about mental health.
Yeah, I think people think that in order to need to go to see a specialist, they have to go through certain things, and they don't realize that triggers are different for everybody. And just because to me somebody else's trigger might be very little compared to mine, I shouldn't minimize that. It's still big for that person. It's different for everybody. I totally agree.
Absolutely.
If I could just ask you, like, you can say also what you feel comfortable with sharing with us, but when did you know, like, hey, I need to go see like a doctor? Like, this is getting out of control.
I knew at a young age that I was not right. I didn't know what was wrong with me. So obviously it's not normal for you to go to a family function at 8 or 9 years old and not feel a part of your family, if that makes sense. And like being terrified of these people that you've grown up with. That's not normal. But I was also raised in a household where you don't talk about these things, which also is very wrong for society to do today. I'm hoping that, my generation, your generation is starting to see this as an issue and is trying to change this. I know in my household I am, because of the way I grew up. I would tell my mom things and she would blow it off. So my situation never got dealt with. I was sexually assaulted when I was 15. So when I was going through therapy for that, obviously they realized I was depressed. And at the time I was. However, from that diagnosis, that followed me for the rest of my life. Anytime I complain that I'm tired or this is wrong, they always grouped it into depression. Now, I deal with depression, yes, in situations that it's called for, that it's normal to be depressed in. When a family member dies or when, things aren't going right, that's normal to have, depression because of those things. But I am not depressed every day. That is not what I should be diagnosed with. Antidepressants, which I came to find out recently, are not good for me. They actually have I guess an adverse effect where they make me suicidal. They make me depressed, which is I guess in my head that's crazy. Like, why is an antidepressant making me so depressed that I don't want to live anymore? And it's just, luckily my aunt is in the medical field. She's a nurse and she works with these things. And as soon as I told her what was going on, because being put on these put me in that situation, I've been an addict since I was 13 years old. I got sober when I was 25 and I stayed sober for 4.5 years and I did really well. But being put on these medications again, which the crazy part was I wanted to get off the antidepressant that I was on. That was not an SSRI. It was just a kind of like a low dose mood stabilizer. And I just wanted something not crazy strong, but just something for anxiety because I have really bad anxiety. And when it comes to my kids, I get stressed out very, very quickly and my stress turns to anger. So I wanted something that was going to help in those situations. And they ended up putting me on an SSRI antidepressant for anxiety, which I don't understand. But I didn't know what it was. And this is another thing that's a miscommunication through doctors and patients is we don't know what the hell these medications are for. We're trusting you to put us on the proper medication to help deal with what we're struggling with. And you're basically setting us up for failure at that point because it had the adverse effect on me. And I relapsed because I didn't want my kids growing up wondering if I killed myself because of them. I knew I could come back from drugs, which most people would be like, well, that's not true. I know this is going to sound very hypocritical, I guess. You want to say that? But like the way that I use drugs and the people that I know what's in the drugs and I know it's not going to kill me. We'll just leave it at that. So I knew I could come back from using. I couldn't come back from jumping off the Ben Franklin Bridge.
Correct.
So, after my uncle's funeral, I sat there for a minute and really thought about it. And I was like, I can't feel like this anymore. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I didn't know what else to do. And instead of taking the route that I couldn't come back from, I decided to go get high and feel better because that's all I wanted. I just wanted to feel better for once because I struggled with this for 3 months. I was taking this and it was making it worse and worse and worse. And again, like I was saying, luckily my aunt's in the medical field. As soon as I told her the medications that I was on, she knew exactly what it was and she told me to stop because it did the same thing to my uncle and it did the same thing to my cousin and to her friend's husband who ended up committing suicide because of being on that medication.
It's crazy to me, like you say, like, I just want it to be better. And I think anybody that struggles with mental health related like problems or issues, that's all they want. They
Absolutely.
just want to be better. Like, and it doesn't matter like if they're drinking every single day, like everybody knows like you need to kind of calm down, but they don't know how to make it better. And I think that you bring up a great point is like we are trusting one person to just make it better, and sometimes it just doesn't.
So I have a question. So when you go to a specialist and they diagnose you with depression, do the specialists not like explain the drug, the side effects and all of that?
So that was the thing. I went to my family doctor, my primary doctor, and because I was constantly tired, I'm constantly in pain, and like there's a few other things that I was explaining, and before I could get through all of it, it was instant, okay, well, you're depressed. No, I'm not depressed. If you've ever met me, like I am not a depressed person. Madison can tell you, I'm fucking off the wall. Sorry, excuse my language. I curse like a sailor. But I am off the wall. Like my personality is very bubbly. I am not depressed. I know I suffer with anxiety. I have OCD and like, there's other things to go along with it that make me the crazy person that I am, but I accept who I am. And I know, like I said, I'm not depressed.
Yeah,
But that was the diagnosis.
Funny person, so I can just say that now. Like I haven't even worked with Danny that long. Like I've only worked at this place for like a year, and you've only been back for like I don't know how long, couple months, but I've really only have like been around you for a few months, and I can tell. Like I've been around depressed people, and it's not.
No, it's not. The problem was I have ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
but my ADHD is a little bit different. When people think of hyperactive disorder, they think that these people just can't calm themselves down. That's not what mine is. Mine is that I need a chemical added to my brain to be a normal human being. Otherwise, because like the main problem is in my brain. It's not the physical aspect. I cannot focus on anything. And when I'm sitting in front of you, if you ever, like got that chance, I can't sit still if I'm not on meds. I cannot focus on one thing if I am not on meds.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes me anxious and that makes me depressed because I'm not completing any of the things that I need to do to get done.
Okay.
When I'm on meds, the meds that I'm on, they work great. They're a non-narcotic option, which I think is amazing. I can finish everything and I'm a happy person because I've accomplished things in my day and I can focus. But just because I'm not bouncing off the wall doesn't mean I don't have this issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said at the beginning, like every disorder is different in every person. And I learned that going through this process after I relapsed. Like it's been a long process and finally coming to find out what was really wrong with me because, I was a meth addict. Like I did heroin and I did cocaine and let's just call me a dumpster junkie. It's fine. I've accepted that. But my one love in the drug world is methamphetamine. The reason being is because it makes me normal when I use it. That is how, when I explained that to the doctor, the specialist, when I finally got to see a psychiatrist, because my aunt was like, stop going to your family doctor and go to a specialist, stop being stupid. Because I didn't know. I didn't think there was anything really wrong. And she finally told me that. So that's what I did. I followed her, her suggestion. And guess what? I figured out what was wrong with me and got put on the right meds. And I'm normal now. This medication does the same thing to me that methamphetamine does. I mean, granted, it doesn't make me high, but it makes me feel normal and I can focus. And that's why I loved the methamphetamine.
I mean, either one of you can kind of answer this because I just think that this also isn't kind of talked about enough. Is what do you guys think is the best thing, I guess, to look for? Because I know not everybody's comfortable going to a psychiatrist at first or even a therapist. It's like they put the blame on themselves or they think something's wrong. Or I know personally for me, like I have put off going to see a specialist because I don't want to end up in a ward basically for suicidal people. And I've just been putting it off. But what do you guys think is like the number one thing to like look for when you really need to see somebody?
My opinion, I don't think there is any number one thing. If you feel like there's something off, then there's probably something off. I mean, talk to people that you trust, get their opinion, but honest to God, like in my experience, when I knew something was wrong, there was something wrong.
Yeah. I feel like it goes the same way with like physical health. When you feel a sore throat and you have your gut feeling that you're sick, go with your gut feeling. It goes the same with mental health. If you feel off and if you need any reassurance, like it just happened to me. My best friend yesterday asked me, like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. I'm just a little bit off. I don't know why. And she was like, yeah, I noticed. So go with someone you trust and they'll be able to tell if your behavior is off.
Absolutely. I mean, your friends know you the best. And that's something I've noticed, like, come to find too. Like, your family, I mean, in my experience, my family doesn't know me, but my friends do.
Mm-hmm.
My friends know me way better than my family does. And they're always like, are you okay? You don't seem right. And then, but that's where you have to take it into your hands and be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Honesty. If you're not right, don't lie and be like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm just tired. No, talk to somebody. I honestly believe that the fear of being locked up or put somewhere is a big concern for a lot of people. But I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I was in an insane asylum at one point and it wasn't that bad. not gonna lie, was not that bad. I probably sound insane saying that, right? No, but I think we also put a bad name on these places that are actually built to help us. Yeah, like they didn't do anything to me. Like they just wanted me to be okay. That center was actually a dual diagnosis center too, that helped with mental health and addiction. And like, it wasn't a bad place. Like I don't regret going. It probably was a waste of my time just because, it did not help the addiction aspect, but it did help me get on my feet, which is really what I needed at the time. But there's such a stigma when it comes to all of this stuff, whether it be mental health, whether it be, the asylums or the psych ward, or addiction in itself. Like, I'm going to be starting a vlog or something. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but, related to addiction, because that's what I know best. And, trying to erase the stigma. People think that it's our choice. People think mental health is our choice. Like, yeah, you can choose to wake up and be in a good mood, but if the chemicals in your brain say otherwise, it's not going to happen.
Agreed.
That's just what it is, and it's the same with addiction. Like, yeah, I wholeheartedly admit that the first time I picked up a drug was my choice, but somewhere along the line, it became no longer my choice. My body became physically addicted, and my mind said I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that, because there are a lot of people out there that can pick up a drug, use it for 2 or 3 days, and put it down and never touch it again. Good for you. Wish I could do that. You know what I mean? But I can't. And it just, people like to talk down on things they don't understand. And I feel like if more people educated themselves on both these topics, it would make it a lot easier for people to get help.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. There's such a stigma that you're weak or crazy when it comes to mental health, which makes people afraid to speak up. And also, Madison talking about like the psych ward and stuff, just think how they're portrayed in the movies. Obviously, you're going to be scared because it's this whole thing. And some movies like the psych ward is haunted and stuff. Like, and it just makes people get this perspective. I mean, I personally don't know how it's really like, but I'm confident that it's exaggerated in movies.
Right.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, I wish my psych ward was haunted. That would have made it more fun.
That just goes back though to what I think we say basically every episode is it's more of an entertainment thing now. It's more of a trend thing now. Like it's not taken as seriously. They want to make it into what will sell and not how to help.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
we started to open up the conversation of mental health, and because it's such a taboo topic that nobody speaks about, but along the way people took advantage of it and started advertising it and trying to sell, which it just loses focus. But I still think that there are a lot of people like our podcast who are trying to do it for a good reason and genuinely help people.
Oh yeah, I believe that there's people out there who are, actually trying to help. I mean, and you got to remember too, the media right now, you don't know what to believe anymore. I've seen so many things that like they're speaking about something that's happening now and they're using media from 2 years ago that was actually about this thing. Like it's sickening. Like, why are you going to do that? Why? Because you don't have the truth yet? Okay, then don't speak on it.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that have no personal experience and no, connection to mental health issues try to talk about it, and it's like, what are you talking about? That's not the reality of the situation. And people put labels on it. Oh, you're mental. Oh, you're psycho, you're mentally unstable. No, I'm going through something. That's just what it comes down to. I'm going through something and I need help. And a lot of people don't know how to say those words. I need help.
Mm-hmm.
I agree a lot. And I think that's one of the reasons why we wanted to start this podcast is because especially like I'm 23, Maria's going to be 20. Danny, I mean you're only 30. Like it's not anything. And people our age aren't really understanding as much as somebody that really is struggling. And I think one of the reasons why we really did this is just to, it's not, and we've said this multiple times, it's not for clout. It's not something that we can, like advertise on or anything like that. It's just to advocate and to understand. And we're learning like everybody else is learning, but it's the people that really want to get educated that are going to help and make a difference and not just do it for movie entertainment.
Right.
Yeah, and I also think, I don't know why, but there's a lot more people that are dealing with mental health issues than we think. Just a couple of days ago, I found out some girls in my high school that are dealing with eating disorders that I would have never thought. But just because we don't talk about it, nobody knows, and people think it's normal that they look a certain type of way. And I think the more we talk about it and open the conversation, more people will get help and go to specialists, because being misdiagnosed, I mean, I didn't know it would be that common to be misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Actually, it's very, very common to be misdiagnosed, especially because they put such a limit on age and things like that when it comes to diagnosing. Like, I'm watching my kids run around right now, and I can already tell the tendencies they have because I've been through it. And my daughter acts just like me. It's actually pretty scary. But I'm like, yep, you're gonna have ADHD, you're gonna have this, you're gonna be an addict. Like, I can already tell. Like, I know what my future is gonna be with her, but that's okay. Like a doctor can sit there and tell me, well, no, this is the problem. No, I trust me, because you told me that was my problem back then, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it caused me a life of trauma and pain, which led to me becoming an addict because I tried to self-medicate. That's what addicts are doing. People think it's so easy to just get clean. Like, oh, just go get clean, just do it. That is so much easier said than done. And I wish that everybody that those words have ever come out of their mouth about an addict getting off drugs went through just one day of withdrawal. Even if you take out the physical aspect of it, just the mental obsession that comes along with it. Just one day, just so you can see exactly what we go through. Because it's not, it's just, I don't even know how to explain it. When you talk about an obsession, you can't stop thinking about it. You can't stop the thought process. Like, you can sit there and watch a movie, and in that hour's time that movie is on, you're going to think about that drug 70, 80 times.
It's true. And I also, I think like my sister made a good point while she's actually sitting next to me. She makes a good point is like, when you're in school, like you're taught, like, eat your vegetables, be healthy. This is what you have to do, exercise this amount and all this stuff. And nobody is explaining to you the mental aspect. And I think as a society, we're not always taught it, and we're not always taught how to cope and deal. And that it kind of ends up in the hands of families, but not everybody's family is a strong unit. And so that's also where things kind of get misled and miscommunicated and misguided for a ton of people.
Yeah. I mean, in school, they did teach us like you have physical health, mental health, and emotional health. But we only discussed how to treat your physical health. Nobody actually taught us how to deal with our mental health, or how to have a healthy mental health, like healthy habits, healthy behaviors. Nobody taught us that.
No, absolutely not. But you know what, too? I'm going to say this, and this is probably a different opinion from everybody. I mean, like, I was put through the DARE program in school. Everybody in my class was. Did it keep us from using drugs? No. You know what I mean? Like, that's the sad reality of it. Like, I know I'm laughing, but it's the sad reality of addiction. It's like, when it comes to the addict way of thinking, and I mean, I don't know, because I'm an addict, I don't know how you guys think with the mental health issues with no addiction connected to it, but like the more somebody tells me don't do this, the more I want to do it because I want to see why you're telling me don't do this. You know what I mean? Like that's the sick way of my thinking. And like I know that's true for a lot of addicts because I do go to meetings and I hear people talk and I hear people share and they say the same thing. The more you tell me not to do it, the more I want to do it. But that could also just be human nature. Who knows?
Yeah, no,
But I
I,
know
I think it's human nature. Like, I think it goes for very different things. Like, if your parents tell you, don't date that guy, you're going to want to date him. You know, it goes for everything. And
absolutely.
yeah. Well, we have 4 minutes left in the meeting. So I think we're just going to wrap it up. But thank you so much, Danny, for joining us this episode. I think we had a very important conversation and you helped us like put in another perspective on our podcast. I mean, personally, I would have never thought the connection between mental health and addiction, again, because of misinformation and not enough education in social media, schools, family, whatever, and because of the stigma around it. So thank you so much for agreeing to being in this podcast. Maybe we can have you on some other episode because there's so much more we can talk about.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And I think it's a really good idea that you want to do a blog or YouTube or something. I think you should really go for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it.
Even if you help one person, that's one person that didn't have a person before that.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, it's been a really good episode. Like Maria said, like a whole different perspective of mental health. And if you liked it, let us know too. All of our socials are down below on YouTube, or they are in the link in Spotify and all that stuff. We do try to post every Wednesday, but we are still in school and working and trying to figure everything out. So if we do miss a day or we're off a day, then we apologize in advance.
Well, we'll talk to you guys next week. And again, thank you, Danielle, for joining us this episode. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So if you are struggling with addiction, there is a hotline that you can call and you can get free and confidential guidance. The number is 866-501-9732. Again, the number is 866-501-9732. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.